Karan will now walk you through some of the Watson APIs. So if you haven't already got your laptops out, it's time to get your laptops out. Log into Bluemix, and Karan will teach you how to set up the Watson APIs.
So how many of you have heard about Bluemix? How many of you have already signed up or are already using Bluemix? Very few, okay. So, I'll just spend 10 to 15 minutes to talk about Bluemix, what Bluemix is all about, how quickly you can create your applications in a way you want, how quickly you can call the REST APIs of Watson in the applications which you want to create. Apart from that, I'll also talk about the console, right? Perfect. So I will be talking about all these APIs. So there are somewhere around 12 to 15 APIs which we offer under the Watson umbrella. So some of them are like speech to text, text to speech. Then we do have something called visual recognition to analyze the images or the or the faces. Apart from that, we do have something called personality insight, which basically tells you about the personality traits of a particular human being, right? Okay, and okay, so I was talking about Bluemix. It's working. Thank you. So. So basically, I will start with the basic slide, right? So how many of you are the developers? I think most of you are the developers, right? So in order to develop any application, be it a mobile application or a web-based application, these are the basic building blocks, right? Which are required to develop and host your application for the outer world, right? Obviously, you are required to have some kind of physical servers or maybe a virtual machines. You are required to have some kind of networking in place. Apart from that, obviously you are required to have some run times. Let's say if you are a Java developer, you will have JDK or JRE kind of an environment to develop your applications, right? So whatever is mentioned under the blue color will be provided to you by IBM software. So I'll talk about the IBM Cloud Offerings first. So the cloud offerings are basically segregated into two parts. One is infrastructure as a service. Second thing is platform as a service, right? So with the passage of time, you will be using IBM platform as a service because that's the only, developers platform on top of which you can start creating your applications, right? So whatever is mentioned under the blue color will be provided to you as a service in IBM software. I'm not talking about IBM Bluemix, right? So it's the infrastructure as a service. Whatever relates to infrastructure, be it a firewall, be it a virtual machine, operating system, will be provided to you by the software environment. Okay, so I was talking about software. Now let's talk about Bluemix. So Bluemix, since it's a developer's environment, it provides you all the major runtimes to create your application, right? So it normally it supports Java, PHP, Python, Go, right? These are the basic languages which are supported. Apart from that, if you are already working with some of the build packs which are not available in Bluemix platform, you can always, you can always have them on Bluemix as well. I'll show you how quickly you can do that, right? So being a developer, you are only required to concentrate on your data and the code which you are planning to write, right? Rest all will be given to you by this particular platform. Apart from that, if you are already working with some of the applications which are hosted on your local host, you can always set up a point-to-point connectivity between your local host and the cloud platform, which is Bluemix in this case, right? So I'll also show you how quickly you can do that. And there are multiple ways by which you can push the code from your local host to this platform, right? So how many of you are already using Eclipse or maybe NetBeans as an IDE? Yes, so for those who are using Eclipse or NetBeans or anything else, so there is a plugin which is available for Bluemix, right? You have to go to the Eclipse marketplace, just download the plugin and just install it. You will be able to, connect your local host with this platform which I was talking about. So what is Bluemix? Bluemix is basically an open standard cloud-based platform for building, managing and running the applications in a way you want, right? So using this particular platform, you will be able to go live your applications within seconds because you are not required to set up any virtual machine or anything. Everything is already there. let's say you are a Java developer, just click onto the Java runtime. Everything will be provisioned and given to you. Just give a unique name to your application. Just the moment you will give a unique name to your application, at the backend it will spin up a virtual machine for you, right? No need to think about the public IP. No need to think about getting a domain from the outer world. Everything will be there, right? Apart from that, there are multiple APIs which I will be talking about. There are multiple cognitive APIs. Most of them are the REST APIs which you can call in your applications. Some of the APIs which I was talking about, which relates to Watson, all of them are available over here, right? On-prem integration I've already talked about. It is not relevant for this hackathon. Apart from that, the entire suite of DevOps is available. How many of you are using DevOps in your day-to-day life? Okay, so the entire suite of DevOps is available. This is how the dashboard of Bluemix looks like. I'll show you the real console after some time. Okay, no need to have any virtual machine, no need to set up any middleware. It supports multiple languages I've talked about. So apart from the Watson services which I was talking about, there are multiple other services like blockchains. I think somebody was talking about Ethereum, right? So the entire suite of blockchain is available. If you are willing to work on big data, Hadoop Foundation suite is there. Apart from that, let's say if you want to create some mobile applications, so it supports Xcode for the iOS-based development. It supports Android Studio for your Android application. Apart from that, it also supports the third-party mobile application tools like Xamarin and Ionix, right? Xamarin and Ionix, sorry. So apart from that, if you are willing to, how many of you are working on the IoT, I mean Internet of Things technology? No, okay, you guys are working on it. So there are multiple recipes available, right? If you want, you can get in touch with me, I'll explain it to you. So obviously, if you are creating any application, be it a mobile or the web-based application, you want to monitor it. So there are multiple monitoring tools available in this. So using these particular tools, you will be able to do the real-time health check of the applications which you are creating, right? You can check the CPU utilization, RAM utilization, and rest of the other things. So being a developer or a participant in a hackathon, you're only required to think about your code and the data which relates to your code. You can keep rest of the things on Bluemix. So how many of you have already created your account on Bluemix? Can you just raise your hands? So you have already consumed the promo codes which is given to you, right? For those who have not received the mails, or for those people who have not registered on Bluemix, so they can always search for the Bluemix console. They can create a 1 month free, 1 month trial account, and they can start exploring the services of Bluemix from there, right? So after that, any questions around Bluemix? What Bluemix is all about? Because in next 24 hours, in next 36 hours, you will be working on Bluemix. I mean, if you feel like using the IBM technologies, right? So any questions around Bluemix before I move to the Watson APIs? Okay, good to know. So Danish already spoke about multiple things which relates to AI for education. So I'll not speak too much about AI. I'll quickly move to the cognitive sciences, and I'll discuss the Watson APIs, right? So basically, in a real-time scenario, we are dealing with a humongous amount of data, right? The data is coming from multiple places. Data is coming from application development revolution. It is coming from mobile devices. It is also coming from the RFID sensors which are installed. They're also coming from the social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, and all. Now, most of the data is unstructured in nature, right? So now, idea is to make that unstructured data to a structured data, right? So that is the most important thing. And how to do the analysis on top of that data is the most important thing, right? How to analyze the data, how to extract the meaningful data from the data which we are getting from the multiple sources. So for that, basically we do have a cognitive system, right? So what cognitive system is doing it is basically understanding the data which is coming from multiple sources. It is applying it is applying some of the reasoning on top of it. It is learning from the multiple sources, and after that it is interacting with the human. It is interacting with human beings, right? So first of all, it is very important to understand the data. Understand the data. Then obviously, it should apply some kind of reasoning on top of the data which it is understanding. After that, obviously, in order to have a better system in place, you have to train the data, or you have to train the model in a way you want it to learn, right? So that is again important. Last thing, you want your machine to interact like a human being, right, from the data which is given to it. So I was talking about the Watson portfolio. So there are multiple APIs which falls under the Watson umbrella. So these APIs are segregated into 4 parts. One is the language, second is vision, third is data insights, and fourth is speech. So under the language sub umbrella, we have APIs like conversation API, which is basically used to create the chatbots, right? So I'll talk about it. I'll also talk about the architecture which you can use, while creating your chatbots. Apart from that, there are APIs like retrieve and run, tone analyzer, which you are already using. There are APIs like personality insights, which talks about the human traits, right? Using this particular API, you'll be able to extract the human traits. Okay, and next is vision. Now, how to, obviously, now the question comes how to get the information from the images, right? Obviously, let's say if I am having an image of Sachin Tendulkar, now how to extract that this particular image belongs to whom, right? So in that scenario, this API will certainly help you analyze the images from where you can extract the informations like Sachin is a sports guy, he's very inquisitive in nature, he's a social person, he's a celebrity, all these things. I'll also show you the demos for these APIs. So I was talking about the conversation API. So it's very important API because after this particular presentation, I will be talking about the problem statements, right? And conversation API, we do have a use case for the conversation API in that. So please be careful. So this API is basically used to build the chatbot which understands natural language and deploy them on the messaging platforms, right? So let's say if you are creating a chatbot, so let's talk about any chatbot. Let's say if you want to order pizza from Domino's, right? You'll just go to their console, you'll say hi, it will say hi, how are you? You'll say I want to order pizza, it will say okay, which size you are looking at, you want to have a pan size, medium, or a large size pizza. You'll say I want to have medium size pizza. Then your virtual agent, obviously I'm not talking about any human being who is interacting with you. There is a machine who is talking on behalf of a human being. You'll say okay, I would like to have medium pizza. Then it can throw multiple questions like which kind of toppings you are looking at. You want to have onion or capsicum, whatever you want to feel like. You can always create such kind of chatbots by using this particular conversation API. So these are some of the use cases of the conversation API. You can basically, it is very helpful in the contact center. So it is very helpful in the guided experience. So let's say I'm a student and I want to apply for the IIT JEE exam, right? So using the conversation API, you can create a chatbot which can basically guide you that how quickly you can fill up the form. admission form while you are applying, for the admission in IIT. So you can always have a guided experience through that. So you want me to share, you want me to discuss about the architecture, how you can create a chatbot? Okay, you want? Okay, great. So this is how the request flow of a particular chatbot looks like, right? So let's say I am a user, right? And in this particular architecture, I am basically using Slack as a messaging gateway, right? So you can use Facebook Messenger, you can even use Gmail for that, right? Right now I'm using Slack in this architecture. So as a user, so let's say I want to I have a question that what should I have in case of a high BP, right? So user is asking this particular question, right? So this is how the Slack is the messaging gateway. Now user is basically putting a query that what should I consume in case of a high BP disease. So there will be a post request which will go to the application which you have created, right? Now your application will basically trigger a message payload to the Watson Conversation API. Now Watson Conversation API will basically detect the intent behind the question. So let's say you are asking for a high BP diet. That means there could be multiple intents in that, right? One is user is talking about the medical field. He's talking about a particular disease like high BP, and then he is talking about diet, right? So these are the three intents, right? So now the Watson Conversation API will basically extract the intents. It will extract the intents from the question which is being asked by the user, and it will trigger an API of the intent to the Watson Discovery API, right? So Watson Discovery API is a content search engine, right? So Watson Conversation API will say that will basically trigger API of the intent to the discovery. Now at the backend, Discovery API will search from the multiple sources which is available on the internet, right? That it will go to multiple websites, it will go to the social media pages and search for the best suitable high BP diet, and basically provides a response to your application, right? And in turn, your application will provide the response to your Slack channel, and the user will get his answer. So this is how the architecture of this particular thing looks like. After this presentation, I will be there. I'll be around. If you want to explore, more around this, I can help you out even with these steps. How quickly you can create your chatbots. Yeah, please. No. For that, we do have some different APIs. There is something called Twitter Insight, which is available, which only searches the data which is available in Twitter or in tweets. So that's it. So you cannot train the Discovery API. There are some API which you can train. So let's talk about the. I'll talk about the visual recognition API. You can always train it in a way you want. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. That is doable. Yes. Yeah, retrieve and dand could be a replacement for that. I'll talk about that. Any questions around conversation API before I move to my other API? Sorry. Sorry, if you want. You can train your conversation API. You can define your own intents in the conversation API, but you cannot train the discovery API because it's a search engine, right? So you can always define your. So let's talk about a weather chatbot, right? So wherein you can define multiple intents like summer, winter, temperature, anything, foggy. All these intents you can mention in the conversation one. So next is the personality insight API of Watson, which basically extracts the personality characteristics based on how a human writes, right? So let's say if you are writing a blog on Sachin, right, and you're just praising about Sachin. Sachin is a very good player. He's very social in nature. He's very humble, cool and calm. So what it will do is it will basically extract your human traits, right, from the blogs which you are writing. Apart from that, you may be writing multiple mails. So from your mails also, it can extract your traits, your human traits, right? Similarly, from your Twitter posts and all, right? So I'll show you a demo. So we do have a demo for this. So now, basically, this demo will it's a celebrity match demo, right? So what I'll do is I'll just input my Twitter handle in this, and it'll match my personality with some other guy, right, who is available on Twitter. So let me put in my own Twitter handle in this. Let's click on to match. So as per Watson, I'm somehow similar to Chris Brown, right? So so these are the parameters on the basis of which it is doing the comparison. One is this: I'm cautious, like Chris Brown. I'm not easygoing. I'm organized like Chris Brown. Okay. I'm reserved. Okay, like Chris Brown. I'm analytical in nature, and I'm sensitive. Right. So these are the parameters. So you can always define your own parameters in a way you want, right? So any questions around conversation and personality insight API? After that, I will be talking about visual recognition, which is again a very relevant API as per the use cases given to you or the problem statements given to you. Any questions on Watson, how it works? Okay. Sorry? Most of them. Yeah. It's available for, you're talking about the messaging platform? Yeah, so it is available for Slack, Google, I know, Facebook, I understand. Yeah. Okay. So, similarly, apart from personality insight, we have APIs like trade-off analytics. So in the trade-off analytics API, it basically makes it helps you make a better choices with a few with a full view of data, right? So what it will do is, so how many of you are are already doing the purchasing from the e-commerce websites like Jabong, My Mantra, or something? Most of us are doing, right? So whenever you start your shopping, on the left hand side you basically see that there are multiple filters which are available, right? So let's say if you, I'm just giving you an example of carwale.com, right? So whenever you, let's say you want to buy a car which should be hatchback, right? Its CC should not increase 1500, as a number. It should be red in color, right? So on the basis of these parameters, what you can do is you can basically filter out a particular car. The moment you will say that I'm looking for a car which should be hatchback, it should be red in color, it should have a Japanese brand or the OEM. So in that scenario, maybe it will provide you a result that you should go ahead and buy Swift, right? So accordingly, you are not required to write any cumbersome or dirty codes for that. You are just required to call these APIs, right, for this. After that, there is another API called Tone Analyzer. So Tone Analyzer basically helps people detect, understand, and revise the languages, right? Language tones of emotions, right? So, what it is doing is it is basically understanding the tone and the style from the written text, right? So let's say in a particular blog, let's say I am writing, I love Virat Kohli, he's a very good player. Now from this particular text or the statement, what this API is extracting is, I'm a positive guy, I'm a social guy I'm a sports lover who keeps on reading a lot of stuff around sports and all, I'm a cricket lover and all, right? So this tone analyzer will basically extract the tone and the style, which is there in the which is present in the written text, right? So there are multiple parameters on the basis of which it basically extracts the emotions. One is it will tell you whether a person is angry, he's sad, he's joyful, or he's a fearful guy, right? Apart from that, from the text only, it will extract that whether a person is open, he's extrovert, he's introvert, he's agreeable or not, right? So apart from that, it can basically provide you that whether a person is analytical, he is confident, or a tentative in nature, right? So there are multiple use cases for the tone analysis API. So you can use them in the chatbots. So let's say I'm an IDEA user and I'm really unhappy with the IDEA services. The moment I will write that oh my God, I'm not happy with your services, and I'm gonna switch to Vodafone or to some any other service provider. So with the statement which I have given in the chatbot, the system will able to understand that I am not happy with the IDEA services, I'm very sad. Now being a customer care executive, what you can do is you can start giving me more attention, right? You can start giving me more good plans and all in order to retain me, right? So this API is very helpful in the chatbot kind of a scenario. It is useful in customer care monitoring, which I was talking about, and obviously in person and business communications. Next is the visual recognition API. I was talking about it. So visual recognition API basically analyze the visual content of images and the videos, right? So what I'll do is just after this demo of visual recognition API, I'll go to the console. I'll show you how quickly you can start creating your application. It is very simple to attach multiple databases. to the applications which you are creating, and it's very simple to call these APIs as a REST call, right? I'll just spend 5 to 10 minutes to explain the console. So I was talking about the visual recognition demo. So it's a very simple demo. So let's click any of the pick. So let's click this pick. Okay, this pick. Let Watson analyze this particular image, right? You can always train this API in a way you want, right? So I have already clicked onto this image. Now let's see what Watson is talking about this image, right? Okay, Watson is saying that Watson is 95% sure that it's a clothing store. It is 95% sure that it's a shop. It's a retail shop. It is 97% sure. Obviously, it's a building. Watson is 97% sure, and so on. It has got a dressing room and all, right? So accordingly, you can train this system in a way you want. So you can create multiple demos around it. You can even have a URL. You can copy paste the URL in this particular demo, and the Watson will tell you that what this image looks like, right? And everything, right? So in the interest of time, I'm not having much time because we have to break for lunch. So what I'll do is I'll just take 5 minutes to tell you how to show you the dashboard of Bluemix. So the moment you will register on Bluemix, you'll get a unique set of credentials. You have to pass on these credentials. And the sign up process is again very simple. It's like a Gmail sign up process only. Okay. So this is how the dashboard of Bluemix looks like. The URL is very simple. Just search for Bluemix and you'll get it over there. So on the right hand side, you have multiple things. One is catalog. So the services which I was talking about, be it the Watson services, be it the Watson APIs, IoT Foundation Soup, Hadoop Foundation Suite, all these things are available under the catalog section, right? So let's create. It's very simple to create an application. For that, you have to just click on to the Create App button. It will ask you to provide a unique application name. So now, as of now, it is redirecting me to this place, right? So it is redirecting me to the place where all the boilerplates are there, right? So what are boilerplates? Boilerplates are the combination of your runtime databases and some of the relevant service, right? So you can choose any of the boilerplate in order to create your application, right? So there are multiple boilerplates. Some of them are based on the Node.js runtime. So if you are a Java developer and looking for a Java boilerplates, those boilerplates are again available. Apart from that, I'll go to the left hand side. So you can click on the left hand side under the app section. You can click on to the Cloud Foundry apps, right? And you will be able to see all the runtimes. So I was creating an application. So let's choose Java to create my application. So I just have to click on to the Liberty for Java runtime. It will ask me to provide a unique user application name. So I can give any application name. Let's say it is IIT Delhi. Now you are not required to think about the domain. Domain is already there. It is your application URL will be like iitdelhi.mybluemix.net. So if you want to bring in your own domain, you are free to do that as well, right? Just click on to the create button and it will start creating your application at the back end. So once your application is created, you will be able to see your application in the dashboard, right? So if you want to connect any of the database, be it a SQL database or a NoSQL database with your apps, just click on to the application, click on to the connect new button. It will again redirect you to the catalog, and in the catalog all the databases are available. Like I was talking about the runtimes, right? So now you can see that your application is starting. You can go back to your dashboard. And you can see that your application is actually getting started. That's the reason it is showing stop. It will take few seconds to make your application live, right? So once your application is created, just click on your application. The moment you will click on your application, it will show you the overview of your application, right? Now, as of now, it is consuming a single instance with 512 MB of memory, right? So these are the things which relates to the virtual machine which is running at the backend for this particular application, right? So let's say if you want to if you want to attach any of the Watson service with the application which you have created. For that, you have to click on to connect new button. You have to click on to the connect new button. Again, you will be redirected to the catalog page. Just go to the left hand side, click on Watson. The moment you will click on Watson, all these you will be able to see all the APIs. I was talking about conversation, discovery, document conversation, whatever you want to consume in your app, you can click on that particular API. So let's click on conversation for now. Just if you want to give a unique name to your API, you can give it. Otherwise, you can go ahead with the default name which is given to it. Just click on to create button. The moment you will click on to the create button, this API will be connected to the application which you have created. Now, in order to call any REST API, you are required to provide a username and the password for that particular API. There will be a unique set of credentials for each and every API. In order to see the service credential for that API, just go back to go back to your dashboard again. You are able to see your application here. Just scroll down. This is the API which we have created, right? Just click on to this. API, and on the left hand side you will be able to see the service credentials. These are the service credentials for your API. Okay. Okay. And apart from that, so now your API is already connected with the app. So if you want to launch your API, there is a launch tool available for each and every API. Similarly, you can call multiple APIs like visual recognition, document conversion, and all, which I was talking about. So I think I'm already running out of time. I'm so sorry. I'll just take one minute to tell you about the problem statements. These problem statements are already there on the website, right? Okay. So we already have the problem statements available on the website. If you want to have a look at it, you can just go through the problem statements. So first problem statement is you have to design the application to navigate around the topic discussed in order of topic difficulty and popularity. In order to solve this particular problem statement, you can use speech to text, text to speech API for the intuitive interaction, and you can use the Watson conversation API for the chatbot creation. Second problem statement is using CNN news dataset and education textbooks, link textbooks topics with news story of relevance towards the experiential learning. For that you can use NLU, natural language understanding. Right. So if you want to learn more about the API, there is a very good and a comprehensive documentation available, in the Bluemix console only. You have to click onto just go to catalog, click onto that API which you want to consume in your application. It will provide you a demo, it will provide you a YouTube link for that, it will provide you the entire documentation. It will tell you how quickly you can call them, even if you are using a command line interface. How to have curl commands and all. All these steps and details are available. Third one is, the third problem statement is to generate auto article by adding relevant images from open source using Wiki QA datasets. For that you can obviously use the visual recognition API, right? So these are the three problem statements which are given by IBM. All these problem statements are already mentioned in the URL which is given to you. You can have a look at it and you can start consuming it. Apart from that, we do have a Slack channel which is open for you. In case you have any challenges, you can always post your queries on the Slack channel which is there. Somebody from IBM will certainly help you out with the answers, right? Any questions so far? I'll be there around you guys. Thank you so much for your time.